أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Today we are reflecting on the third juz of the Qur'an, and this is the juz in which we have the final section of Surah al-Baqarah and the beginning of Surah al-Ḥayy. Inshallah, we talk about two aspects of this, one thematic and the other a little bit more specific. Surah al-Ḥayy in many ways initiates, it has two major themes, an address or a conversation with the people of the book, with the Jews and Christians, and also towards the end of the surah, Allah is unpacking, if you will, the experience of the Battle of Uhud and showing the companions the theological meanings of that experience. We begin, inshallah, with the beginning of the surah, which the bulk of the beginning of the surah, again, it initiates this address to the people of the book. And it situates Islam, which has the Muslims now have migrated from Mecca to Medina, and it situates Islam in this new environment in conversation with the inheritors of previous revelations. Early in the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna ad-deena 'inda Allahi al-Islam. Religion in God's sight is but Islam. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْعِلْمَ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ. And those who were given the scripture before did not differ among themselves until knowledge came to them out of animosity, mutual animosity among themselves. This conversation, if you will, with the people of the book, one of its central themes is Islam as a noun is proved through Islam as a verb. Immediately after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this statement that religion in God's sight is Islam, He instructs the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if they argue with you, then say, and aslamtu. فإن حاجوك فقل أسلمت وجهي لله ومن اتبعن. If they argue with you, then say, I indeed have submitted my entire being to God, I and those who follow me. This is the mandate of the Muslim community in the United States and in the West, to demonstrate contextually, practically, what it looks like to submit to God. And when people see that, it speaks for itself. When people see that, it is enough of an announcement, enough of a statement for it to become clear where truth lies and where people are missing the truth. And that is becoming more and more clear without going into everything that we're seeing today. But the moral coherence of a civilization that claims to be founded on Judeo-Christian values is really in question. It is in question for not just the people who have moved on from religion, but even for the people who are still committed to that as a project. Gaza and the crumbling of institutions around us is causing people to start asking questions. And if we see Muslims doing Islam as a verb in this context, that is the most powerful statement that we can make. And that's what Allah, and it's not just this one set of ayahs, it repeats again in Surah al-Ḥayy. وَلِلَّهِ أَسْلَمَ أَفَغَيْرَ دِينِ اللَّهِ يَبْغُونَ وَلَهُ أَسْلَمَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. Do they seek anything other than the religion of God when all that are in the heavens and the earth submit themselves to Him, and whether intentionally, willingly, or unwillingly, and they will be returned back to Him. And after that, a few verses after that, is the well-known verse, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And whoever seeks other than Islam as their religion, it will not be accepted from them, and they in the hereafter will be among those in loss. And this juxtaposition that we see frequently. Islam as a concept, Islam as the title of a new religion, Islam as a set of teachings with the active participle, the actual doing of the religion should be at the core of our focus, at the core of our attention. The second aspect that we talk about in this transition from Surah al-Baqarah to Surah al-Ḥayy is that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged reading these two surahs in particular. He would tell the companions, "Iqra'u az-Zahrawayn," read the two luminous surahs. And they asked, so what are the two luminous surahs? And the Prophet ﷺ told them it is Surah al-Baqarah and Surah al-Ḥayy. And both Surah al-Baqarah and Surah al-Ḥayy contain verses that the Prophet ﷺ singled out as special. The explanation that the ulama give, why are they called luminous surahs, is because they contain so much light and so many teachings and verses that are special and singled out. Among those is Āyat al-Kursī, which we see right at the beginning of this third juz. The Prophet ﷺ, he saw Ubay ibn Ka'b, and he asked him, "O Ubay," or Abu al-Mundhir, he addressed him by his kunya, "What is the greatest verse in the Book of Allah? What do you think is the greatest verse in the Book of Allah?" And Sayyidina Ubay said, "Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-Ḥayy al-Qayyūm." And the Prophet ﷺ told him, "May knowledge come easily to you, and may it be a source of benefit for you, O Abu al-Mundhir." In other words, you got it right. And the last two verses of Surah al-Baqarah as well, beginning with "Amana ar-Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun." The Prophet ﷺ believes in all that is sent down to him along with the believers. These verses, in one narration, they're given to Rasulullah ﷺ on the night of Isra and Mi'raj. It's one of the special gifts that's given to the Prophet ﷺ on the night of Isra and Mi'raj. Another narration of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, a door opens in heaven and an angel descends from that door and tells the Prophet ﷺ, "Take glad tidings in two lights that you have been given, that no previous prophet has been given." And those two lights are Surah al-Fatiha and the last verses of Surah al-Baqarah. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever reads those final verses of Surah al-Baqarah, kafatahu, whoever reads them in a night, they're enough for him. So making a habit of learning these verses and repeating them in the month of Ramadan, outside of the month of Ramadan, is a source of great barakah and blessing. Even just the last two verses, the Prophet ﷺ, one of the explanations that ulama gave of that is that it's as if the person prayed during that night. Whether or not they're able to do Qiyam al-Layl, those last two verses suffice in that sense. And the opening of Surah al-Ḥayy as well. Asma bint Yazid, may Allah be pleased with her, she narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said, the greatest name of Allah is contained both in Āyat al-Kursī and in the opening verses of Surah al-Ḥayy, which begins also with Alif Lam Mim, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-Ḥayy al-Qayyūm. And there are other verses as well in these two surahs that the Prophet ﷺ singled out for a special status, and that's a gift from Allah to the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and it's a gift that we should take full advantage of, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.